You're listening to the Multiverse Fancast, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
All right then, on with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Multiverse Fancast. If you're listening to us on the go, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and basically anywhere you listen to podcasts, including our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you can also find links to all of our podcasts, not just the Multiverse Fancast, but Cinematic Adventures and our brand new show, MF Uncensored. And if you're looking for some more literary treats, you can find Rob's reviews under the Misfit Corner. He's done reviews on every Disney Plus show that's come out this entire year, which, whatever. It's Disney Plus shows. They're okay, I guess. But I am really excited to be with you guys because this is our first episode of the new year. As always, I'm Paul. With me via Zoom, because we are a safe network here nowadays, is Rob. Rob, how are you today?
All right. How are you doing, Paul? And I can't help but notice that with every new show, you get more animated and there's more character to your voice when you open the show. So good for you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. We each have something we're really good at. Like when it comes to like episode structure, I kind of lean on you because you're much better at, you're a teacher. You're good at creating lesson plans. Ronnie's good at keeping us on track. And then I'm really good at unbridled enthusiasm and all the useless nerd facts you can possibly imagine. It is my blessing and my curse sometimes that I just have unfathomable amounts of useless information just stored in my head.
You're a plethora of trivia.
Plethora. I don't even know what that word means. Just kidding. I went to school. But we are super excited to do this episode. This is an episode that I think during our big hiatus for the show is when this show came out, and we never got to do a season 1 recap, and season 2 just dropped, and we both just finished it. We are talking The Witcher on Netflix. So really excited to talk about this show because I will be honest, I did not watch Game of Thrones because Game of Thrones is the easy comparison.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Did you watch Game of Thrones?
I watched unfortunately, all 8 seasons.
Yeah, that's the general consensus. It's really hard because producer Melanie was big into Game of Thrones, and she was finishing it as, like, her and I, we moved in together, and we got engaged, and all I heard about was how bad season, what is it, 8? 8's the last one?
Yeah, 8's the worst one.
Everybody just talking about how bad season 8 was. And I'm watching it, and I'm watching her just not like it. So I'm like, why am I going to start this show if everybody hates it?
Disappointing.
But same thing, Walking Dead's another one where I tried to get into it. I think I did 4 seasons.
I think I got in about 4 seasons until I tapped out. I was a big fan of the comics, so I read up to, I think I read up to 100 in the comics, which was way further than where I got in the TV show. And yeah, at some point I just tapped out from that because it just got too repetitive.
It got too repetitive, and that's also the problem with binge watching. It's one thing where you watch a show with a week hiatus in between because your brain kind of resets. But watching The Walking Dead, especially whatever season they're on the farm, that was forever, it felt like. That they were on this farm and just rough. And the reason we bring this up is because Netflix is still very famous for their binge watching material. A lot of Disney Plus, HBO Max, all their stuff is week to week, which is good for us as a podcast network because it gives us time to digest and time to let people watch the product. But for Netflix, they still drop everything all at once. What do you prefer? Do you prefer having all 8 episodes in one sitting, or at least one availability?
As frustrating as it is, I think I get a better experience week to week just because it gives me time to think about the episode. It gives me time to appreciate it and enjoy it, and also to talk about it with other people too. Of like, what do you think is going to happen? What are your theories? What are your ideas? Where is it going? Whereas, it is nice. It does get rid of that whole anticipation aspect when they dump it all at once. But there are some benefits to that, but I think I do prefer 1 week at a time, even though it's frustrating.
I think also we here at the Multiverse Fancast and the Misfit Faction are very famous for seeing something and then immediately recording it and hitting it with our freshest thoughts. And sometimes we are so excited that we are not as objective, and that's fine. It's our show. Deal with it.
Oh, that's true.
We love you all. But, Spider-Man's a great example. Sean from Cinematic Adventures and I were just doing an episode of all the movies. We did an entire episode on the movies that came out in 2021, which was a lot of fun.
Jeez.
Well, just like some of the ones that we saw, what our favorites were, the movie-going experience of COVID. And
oh, that's neat.
We were talking about, we got to Spider-Man, and he's like, I think I might knock a few points off of it now that I've had a few weeks. And we're like, what? You can't do that.
I understand that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look at when we did our episode on the original Joss Whedon Justice League, we were very nice to it.
Oh, yes.
Dangerously nice. And then it's funny because, the Snyder Cut comes out and everybody else on my podcast now we're like, yeah, it's okay. And I was like, it's wonderful. Well, and even like the same thing with Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. We were just talking, Rob and I, off air, that there's been this big resurgence of popularity for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man because of, oh, by the way, spoilers. Sorry. For Spider-Man No Way Home.
It's a new year. I think you're allowed to do that.
I think everybody also knows. I've seen pictures online already, like of all the Spider-Men.
Oh, yeah.
But there's been this big push for him to get a new movie, and everybody's like, he was so good. I was like, and the joke is, I've been saying how good he is for years and how the Amazing Spider-Man is. If you don't believe me, check out our Spider-Man Retro episodes. I did just repost all of them right before Spider-Man came out.
I saw that.
But, it's funny because, like, sometimes you need some time and to create a better appreciation of what you're talking about. So for us, though, the problem with The Witcher, and this is the last thing we'll do before we talk news, is there's a very big hiatus between the seasons.
Yeah.
The first season came
over 2 years.
Just about 2 years on. The first season came out December 20th, 2019. The second season came out December 17th, 2021. So just shy of 2 years exactly. And we're going to talk about how, obviously a lot of it was due to COVID and due to just industry shutting down, basically. And we'll discuss it. But first, let's jump into some news, and we're going to pass it over to Rob for the news.
Okay. Well, being the end of 2021, everybody's got their top 10 lists that are coming out now, or top 20 or top 25 lists of the year and everything. And a lot of them are for television shows. And I am happy to report that many of our best critics are citing a lot of the Disney Plus shows and their top 10s and top whatevers. WandaVision has been consistently near the top, but Hawkeye has also been fighting its way up there too. One thing that a lot of the top 10 people are agreeing upon is that and feel free to disagree, that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show was not a good show. A lot of the top critics have been saying that, so it hasn't been making it in there. However, Loki and WandaVision and Hawkeye have been all making it into the top. So it is nice to see that a lot of these shows are getting a lot of critical attention too. And with the Emmys coming around, a lot of these people are up. I know Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are both up for Emmys. I don't think they'll win, but it's just nice that, think back to, before pre-2008 when superhero anything wouldn't get any love at all. And then it was The Dark Knight that got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards that year.
And Heath Ledger getting it.
And Heath Ledger actually getting the posthumous award. So that's fantastic. So it's just nice to see a lot of this love going around.
It's funny, too, because I keep referring to Cinematic Adventures, but we just did this episode, so it's fresh. We talk about how a lot of directors don't like superhero, that they talk very poorly of the superhero movie and the superhero genre. But Scorsese's famous for it. The Last Duel just came out. I forget who did The Last Duel, but is
that Scott?
Ridley Scott. Yes, thank you. He literally said that it was millennials' fault that the movie didn't do well. Like he specifically said that it's millennials and their cell phones. I'm not even joking. Like, get your cane and your walker and go back inside, old man. All right. But people, I think we're just starting to realize how incredible the comic book genre really is. And it's not just comic book movies, it's sci-fi in general and fantasy in general. Unfortunately, like especially the Academy Awards, it's a very outdated concept. And they want the very realistic, some of these movies are fantastically acted and fantastically done. And it's a shame that it's only now that we're really starting to get some of the love for these films. But any other news?
Two more, and those are in the trailer news. We got, speaking of the Batman, we got a trailer for the Batman, which is excellent news.
It was fantastic.
I know.
I hate to be putting the hype on this movie because, we know what happens when you put the hype on the movie.
Agreed. But I have to say, even I'm really excited about it. And you know me, as the Marvel shill that I am. But it looks fun. It looks gritty. It looks sort of like David Fincher's Seven a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that serial killer aspect, with leaving clues. It also looks fantastically acted, which is something that I think that's been a complaint of mine. I don't ever I'm not saying that a lot of the DC is badly acted, but it's just not like, I think, Joaquin's Phoenix, as much as I hate the Joker, you have to admit it's an amazing performance. And I think we haven't seen a lot of those like really great performances, like Heath Ledger-ish kind of things. And Paul Dano looks like he's really going to put in some amazing work. So
and Pattinson too.
And Pattinson too. I'm a Pattinson fan. I think he's an amazing actor. I love The Lighthouse. I love A Good Time with him. He does some great work.
Yeah, it's a shame that he's still so like typecasted in his Twilight days. But like you look at any actor or actress, they all have some like big. Twilight, unfortunately, was just such a phenomenon that and good for him. Like he's one of the few of those actors. Like him and Kristen Stewart have gotten out of their Twilight roles.
It's funny, and it's funny too because both of them have big things. She just did the movie. I think it's called Spencer, where she plays Princess Diana, and she's getting rave reviews for it too.
Yeah, they all.
So
have,
it's nice to see both of them breaking out.
They all have. Unfortunately, then you get like who played Jacob Taylor Lautner. He tried with but he. So Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson went the indie route. They went for like those smaller indie films, better acting, get a chance to kind of flaunt. Taylor Lautner, Hollywood tried to make into an action star, which I get, like that. He was known for being the ripped guy in Twilight, and just a lot. But like you also Rami Malek's in a Twilight movie. Like you can't.
Is he really?
Yeah,
That's
he's
funny.
in, like the last one, I think. But like you have all these really bad actors. Again, they've all done movies that they may not be their best.
Everyone slums it once in a while,
and I would rather slum it for $20 million.
I know.
Like, oh no, I got to do Twilight. They're going to pay me this much, I guess.
And the final bit of news, it's a new week, which means it's a new Peacemaker trailer. We seem to be getting one quite often now, which I have to say kind of concerns me. When there is a studio that consistently puts out new trailers as often and new commercials, that usually is an indication of a lack of either understanding or a lack of faith in their product. And so that worries me a little bit.
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. The problem is Suicide Squad was so good, but it didn't blow up the box office. Well. It didn't change people's opinion about DC in general, because then it turned into, well, at least they made one good one. Like that's the conversation. It's not, and unfortunately, I also think that the Snyder Cut really overshadowed most of DC. Because apparently, according to Twitter polls, it was the most talked about or most discussed movie online the entire year, which is crazy in itself.
Sad.
Easy. God, you guys are all mean. So mean. So sorry that it's one of the most successful movies of all time. But having said that, like, unfortunately, they're also worried, I think, about competing with Disney Plus and competing with their shows. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to watch it. I'm excited to watch it.
I'll watch it.
And
I'll probably write about it too. So
yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's not Marvel, so I don't know if I can. Do I do this review in crayon?
I'll cut out letters from magazines. That'll be my review.
I love it. Now you got to do it like in the Batman trailer. Every time he writes something, it looks like a child wrote it. I love it. But any other news, or is that going to wrap us up?
That wraps up the news for me, unless you have something I might have missed.
No, I think that's it. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to jump into mostly season 2, but a little bit of season 1 of The Witcher. But first, a quick break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Raise Energy Drinks from Rep Sports. Whether you're trying to crush your afternoon workout or just need a little extra pick-me-up, Raise Energy is just the boost that you're going to need. So if you go to repsports.com and any product that you order, enter the code MISFIT89 at checkout to receive 15% off. Anything that you guys buy from that store helps our network grow, and we fully appreciate everything you guys do. That's MISFIT89 at checkout, repsports.com.
All right, we are back, and I am so excited not only to talk about the show, but also to hopefully get the song Toss a Coin to Your Witcher stuck in your head for the rest of the day. Now, before we get started, right? So this was right at the tail end of the Game of Thrones hype. I want to say that season 1 came out. Game of Thrones ended. Do you remember what year end Game of Thrones?
Ooh, I do not, but it was close. Like this was sort of known. This was sort of they handed the torch a little bit to this one. Like all the Game of Thrones fans went over to The Witcher after it was done, and we were like as a Game of Thrones fan. Season 8 of Game of Thrones, we got into it so hyped, so excited. We're like, yes, this is going to be the big moment. And every episode was like, okay, when is it going to kick in? And by about the 5th episode, because it was a short season too, I believe it was only 8 episodes, and which we were already annoyed about. And by the time episode 5 came, we were like, oh no, this is not going to go well, because they just kept wrapping things up so suddenly and quickly and just jumping into things, and we're like, this is not going to go well. And it did. It was just a disaster, and it actually sullied like the other 7 seasons. I really hate, in this household, we both hate Game of Thrones now because of season 8.
Really?
And so we were looking for something great, and The Witcher, people recommended The Witcher to us.
I think I was one of the people that recommended it to you.
Probably. I know there was a couple people at kickboxing. It was like Jackie and her husband, not Ronnie's Jackie, but different Jackie, introduced us to The Witcher and said that we would love it. And we were hesitant because we'd been so burned badly by Game of Thrones, but it was a nice salve that went over us and cured us of our ills.
Yeah. So for me, I was familiar with the games. The video games were very popular. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is considered one of the best video games of all time. For me, it was very much like Assassin's Creed, kind of that vein with you're going back in time basically, and you're dealing with like the medieval stuff. So I started playing The Witcher Wild Hunt, and it was a lot, especially for like just learning to play the game, and I fell off of it. But they announced that the show was coming out, and I was like, you know what, we'll give the show a try, especially because I'm a very big Henry Cavill fan. Henry Cavill is the king of the nerds at this point. He'll do he does Geralt, he was Superman. He's just one of those actors that embraced being just nerdy.
And he also just suggested doing a Red Dead Redemption 2, I think it was.
He said he would love to be in a Red Dead Redemption movie, which is another game that I've never really played, but I know is well regarded. Warhammer, they were talking about a Warhammer movie, and he's like, I'd do it. And unfortunately, he's a lot like Andrew Garfield in terms of he is a great Superman in terrible movies. I'll say it. I will admit it. Like Justice League and Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel to a lesser degree, but still, like, they are not the best interpretations of the character.
I would also argue that he is better than any material that he's in.
Yes.
He raises the bar on a lot of things. Like, I'm trying to think of other things that he's done, and I'm thinking of, what was that spy movie that
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yeah, which it was a pretty good movie, but he was fantastic in it.
And that's why a lot of people want him as Bond.
Yeah, he raised the bar in the Mission Impossible movies. He was in, what was that show? The Tudors. I don't know if you watched The Tudors or not.
Vaguely.
We binged it here because my wife loves trashy historical England series, and so we watched The Tudors, and he was in it, and he elevated the material. He is always better than anything he is in because he tries so hard. He's earnest and he's very natural in everything that he does.
Yeah, and just. Now he's just really embraced what he does, and he's like, I'm a nerd. Like, there was a video of him building a computer that went viral, and I was like, if I had arms like him, I would build a computer in a tank top also and just reap the rewards from it. So he's just a lot of fun. He brings a lot. The first thing I ever saw him in is The Count of Monte Cristo, which ironically is also one of my favorite books of all time. You've read
The Count of Monte Cristo?
I have read The Count of Monte Cristo.
I'm impressed. I'm not impressed because it's you. I'm impressed because that's a huge book.
It is. I read it when I was younger, and
even I've been intimidated to read that one.
I've never been intimidated by a book. I read Macbeth in 5th grade on my own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
Did I understand all of it? Not so much, but I did it. And I'm one of those people, I can speed read and retain. Melanie hates it. She hates that I can do it. I'm a slow reader. I did read each Harry Potter book in a day apiece. I can sit down and literally just read I used to be able to, not so much anymore now that I'm a responsible adult. But Now, I used to be very good at it, and just, and we all know as you get older, everything just kind of starts to slow down a little.
Oh yeah, and fall towards the earth.
Yeah. So for me, like having Henry Cavill in anything, I will go see Henry Cavill in something. If a movie's coming out and it's a Henry Cavill movie, there's a fair chance I like Henry Cavill. He's an actor I support. He's an actor I can get behind. So I'll go see a Henry Cavill movie. But,
he just seems like a person I would hang out with too.
Oh my God, I would love to get a beer with Henry Cavill.
Yeah, easily.
Like him and Jason Momoa. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oof, I don't know about that one for me.
Well, there's that picture, I think it's from the Justice League premiere that went viral, of Henry Cavill standing there and he's like looking all handsome for the photos, and Jason Momoa is like sneaking up behind him. So like there's a bunch of memes that, it's like 2019 and then it's like 2020 sneaking up on you. Like funny things like that. But I feel like they'd be a lot of fun to hang out with. And I'd love to pick Henry Cavill's. He has a dog named Cal after Superman. And he brings that dog with him on interviews.
Aww.
And it's like one of those Mastiff dogs, so it's like a big...
Oh, wow.
Apparently, he got it for anxiety, almost like a service animal. And I was like, wow, what a guy. Like, just, hey, this is what I like. This is who I am. Cool.
You know what? I want to lump him in, and then we'll come back to The Witcher. I want to lump him into that same category of Keanu Reeves, where he's someone who is just a nice person who has their own issues. I know like Keanu Reeves has a lot of anxiety issues and a lot of like touch issues, but he's just a nice person about it. He's open and honest about it. And he's kind of geeky too. Like they seem like that Hollywood, like the type of person in Hollywood that is actually accessible.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see people like that succeed.
I think the only thing, and you never hear bad things about him. I think the worst thing you've heard about Henry Cavill, he has dated some women of questionable age differences. Like,
if I looked like Henry Cavill, I would. Oh, questionable age. Oh, I didn't hear that part.
Age differences. So, like, I think he was dating somebody who was like 19 or 20, and he's. I want to say Henry Cavill he's 38. He's not that much older than I am. Wow.
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised.
I can't condone that, but I will condone the idea that if you look like Henry Cavill, you can date questionably.
Oh yeah, and especially like he shot to stardom. Like in all honesty, so for those of you guys who don't know, they announced that he was going to be a Man of Steel. Like I had seen him in The Count of Monte Cristo, and he's young. He's he plays Albert. He's in it, but he's not really like the biggest star in it by any stretch of the imagination. But I remember when they announced that he was going to be a Superman, we went to go see his movie Immortals, where he plays Theseus, and he is shredded in that movie. And that was like a big thing. It's like, this is going to be your next Superman. And he's like, cut. But it wasn't until Man of Steel that suddenly he is everywhere. Like he exploded. You got him.
Because even in The Tudors, he was kind of a background character.
Yeah, because after Man of Steel, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. came out 2 years following, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League, Mission Impossible, and Enola Holmes. I forgot he was in that. He plays Sherlock.
I didn't even know he was in that.
Yeah, he plays Sherlock.
I have to watch that now.
And then Zack Snyder's Justice League. But like as far as movies go, that's really it. Like those are his biggest movies.
Yeah.
But he does a lot of modeling work and spokesman work and stuff like that. And again, if I looked like Henry Cavill, I think I would too. But so going back to The Witcher, he is fantastic as Geralt.
Oh, he's perfect.
Like he can convey every amount of emotion you need into a character that doesn't convey a whole lot of emotion.
No.
Like when he drops his hmms, like you still know what he's thinking and you know where his head's at. And I think that the episode that really sold me on this show was it the very first episode where they show the butcher, where he butchers the entire... Yeah, it's the very first episode.
I think so,
where he tears through Renfri's men. Yeah. And it is one of the best sword fights and best sword choreographies in a show that I've ever seen. Any thoughts on? Yeah.
Yeah, well... So I guess first of all, I guess we'll say full spoilers on season 1
and 2.
And pretty soon spoilers. Oh, you want to just say it too?
Yeah,
right.
spoiler.
Yeah, it's been out 3 weeks, I think now. Full spoilers on that. Season 1. Well, first of all, him as the Witcher is brilliant casting. He embodies it so well. And I will say, you know a lot more about the Witcher than I do. I went in kind of cold on this. And I didn't even know it was a book series. I thought it was just a video game series. And so that's why I was really hesitant, because I'm like, video game series, how good is this going to be? And I was just coming off of, I think I had just seen Assassin's Creed with Michael Fassbender.
Oh,
which
too
is
soon.
Just awful.
which is
My
such
God,
a
that is a
shame.
terrible movie. And it's such a shame because it looks so cool and everything about it looks amazing, but it's just so bogged down with like lore and stupidity.
Well, the problem with
And
Assassin's Creed, and this is a little off topic, but the problem is they try to do an original story in a.
oh, okay.
It'd be like if for this, instead of focusing on Geralt, they focused on another Witcher, and Geralt was, not even mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
with Assassin's
I
Creed.
did not enjoy Assassin's Creed, and so that's why I was so hesitant to get into this. But I will say, season one and him as Geralt are just fantastic. He is just a brute, and he just any scene he's in, all your eyes go right immediately to him, which is incredible considering some of the other talented people that are involved in all this too. Like the girl who plays Yennefer is I think an amazing actress, but to see Geralt, we joke about that with his and his just throwing out the F word all the time. It's so it sums up so much in terms of his character that he can. I think you said it well. You can produce so much emotion in such little movement and words, few words. So
Now, having said that, and we'll talk. I guess we'll talk season 1 and season 2 of each character, just because that's where we're at. I did not like him in season 2 as much. He
wasn't in it very much.
and that's a whole other issue. Season 2 definitely suffered from COVID and from filming restrictions and whatever else, because the fight scenes are few and far between. Like, there are not a whole lot of fight scenes. There's also, and this is more of a joke, but season 1, Jaskier and Geralt walk into an orgy hosted by Yennefer. They didn't care. Season 2, there is not a whole lot of physical intimacy with characters. The fight scenes are very few and far between. It's a lot more of the CGI monsters. So for me, like season 2, you could feel that effect. And it just didn't sit well with me. They also made Geralt, he's much softer in season 2, which is fine. That's a character progression, but...
Okay, so I will say this, and I'll put this out there right away. I did not care much for season 2. However, I will still recommend it.
Yeah.
Because I think it was probably a lot of necessary character arcs and character growth and background that was needed to carry on in season 3, wherever that goes. Because you had mentioned the hunt.
The Wild Hunt.
And
yeah.
The Wild Hunt. And my wife is a big fan of The Witcher 2. She didn't know much about it, but she has read a lot online and she knows a lot more background. And I tried so hard to get her on the show, but she doesn't like to talk to people. And I'm like, you won't, you'll be just talking to a microphone. She's like, no, I'll just tell you what to say. So she said that The Wild Hunt is like a great storyline and there's a lot of action and a lot to it. So I think a lot of season 2 is groundwork for great things that are coming in season 3. So although I didn't like season 2, I wouldn't give it a thumbs down. I would still give it a recommendation.
Yeah. The problem with what's happening is they want to make The Wild Hunt kind of like the Thanos of this universe, where they're building to it. And we got some looks at it this season, and obviously The Witcher 3 is called The Wild Hunt. Like, that's what it's about.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's called The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. So I get like what people are like where they want to go with it, but we've talked more than once, especially about the MCU, what happens when you focus too much on your build up. And I will say that there are things in season 2 that I like much better. I like how it's a linear story.
See, I did not.
Oh, you prefer the non-linear.
No, I actually liked that I didn't always understand season 1, that was what was going on, but at least it made me think. Whereas I felt like season 2 got dumbed down a little bit in terms of its understanding.
They did make fun of it when with the guard talking to Jaskier. Because we'll talk about Jaskier in a second, but basically he's been telling everyone the stories of him and Geralt's adventures and getting famous for it. And there's a scene where the guard tries to stop him and starts talking to him about his music, and he brings up the time travel, like the time displaced storylines and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's very funny. But
he says something along the lines of like, he's like, that one song you had, there were too many timelines and you couldn't keep track of what was going on.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. And we'll talk about Jaskier in a minute, because fun fact, producer Melanie hates Jaskier. Hates him with a flaming passion. It is
Oh,
rough.
that's funny.
So what I did was, in my most mature level of maturity, I put a ton of songs that he sings on my Spotify playlist. And when we were driving down to DC for the Christmas vacation, we tossed a coin to The Witcher a few times.
Oh, well, she must have been so annoyed. It's funny because my wife Lauren was completely annoyed with him in season 1, but at least he provided comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
And she said this to me. She says, I didn't realize how much I missed him until he came back in season 2.
Yes.
And then it was like, oh, thank God he's back. Now there's some comedy and a little bit of lightheartedness.
Yeah. Speaking of no lightheartedness in comedy, though, we got Freya Allan as Ciri. And she's basically the focal point of season 1. And that's not a dig at the actress or the character. It's just that poor kid. Like,
who is not a kid, we should say. She is, and that's part of the problem. I will say, I think she's my biggest issue with the show, is because she was born in 2001 in September, which means she's 20.
Mm-hmm.
And watching, it worked fine in season 1 with her because, well, first of all, they tried to put out there that she's 12 in season 1, which I was not buying that.
No. And then, unfortunately, you have a 2-year difference, and people age in 2 years. Like, even going from 19 to 20 or 18 to 20, whatever she is now. Yeah. Like those changes are noticeable, and I think that's also something that this show, season 2 felt really rushed in a lot of regards, and it got to the end, and I was like, I feel like we were missing an episode or two. I feel like they were so. Oh, you sounded just like Geralt just now. But I feel like there was an episode or two missing in season 2, and just they were so busy trying to do their 8 episodes at an hour and a half per episode. I feel like they could have added somewhere in there.
Well, and part of my issue with her is that because in season 2, I think she's supposed to be about 14, and there's people who are in their 30s, 40s, and older who are making sexual comments and hitting on her. And I turned to Lauren at one point and I'm like, I'm really uncomfortable with this. The pedophilic vibes that were coming out of my television screen.
Well, even just like the simple stuff where it was like, they're just gonna marry you off to this person. Like, unfortunately, it is a product of that medieval time, and unfortunately, it is a very true and dark part of human history that was the commonplace. 14-year-olds were married off and expected to have kids, and like,
okay,
yeah.
Now you said medieval. That's a problem I'm having with this show also. Is this a medieval show?
I consider it a medieval fantasy, and that's like the genre of it. Because like fantasy works in a lot of different genres, and then it has its own subgenres. I consider this a medieval fantasy show.
Okay.
At least that, anything that involves castles and swords and magic and stuff like that. Very King Arthur type show for me. Game of Thrones.
In my own brain, I couldn't figure out if this was something. Is this existing in a world that happened 600 years ago, or is this in a totally different realm in the future? Like I couldn't quite place
I would say it's an alternate. It's like Game of Thrones. It's an alternate medieval history.
Okay, all right.
Or it could be Jaskier just telling us stories.
Yeah.
Best narrator ever. So going down the cast list, we have Eamon Farren as Cahir, and kind of the antagonist turned semi-protagonist, and just the worst person with the weirdest face and hair. Are you looking him up?
Okay. Yeah, because here's the problem I have with this show is I know about 2 of their names, and that's about it. And then it's just like the Bard, the bad guy who's in charge of all the Witchers. Like, I don't know. I'm not good with names.
Yeah. And this show is terrible. He's the one with the longer hair who they torture at the beginning of season 2, and then him and Yennefer team up for a little bit, and then
the one who has like the morphing kind of features.
No, not the morphing guy. He's the one that when he tries to capture Ciri in the first season, when she screams.
No, isn't he the one that was supposed? Yeah, the one that pretended he was Mousesack.
I don't think he can change the way he looks. Again, this is like, it's hard watching season 1 or not watching season 1 and having such a, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look this up, but he plays.
But
Cahir.
yeah, okay, I know who he is now. Yes.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, he was fine. He's a great antagonist. He's his side for the most part, but he's also like super loyal to the black. What is it? The White Flame? Is that the bad guy?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, the White. What a terrible name.
The White Flame. That sounds like something out of the South.
Oh God, I don't want to even get into that. But I do enjoy him though as a bad guy, and again, he serves his own purpose, and he knows exactly.
Yeah. Well, I would even argue about him being the bad guy because there are so many times where he does good things too.
I mean, he does save Yennefer.
Yeah, and Yennefer saves him too. So he's I like him because okay. If nothing else, for season 2, everyone had very cool character arcs. You know me, I'm big on my character arcs, and it was neat to see growth in every single character, that they ended up at a different spot at the end, of season 2 than they did at the beginning of it. So even though there wasn't a lot of action and it did feel like we were missing some episodes, at least there was progression. And his character, for me, obviously in season 1, he was a very two-dimensional character. He was the bad guy. He was the one that was tricking everyone and very evil and led, charges. But then in season 2, it's like, oh, he's got multiple, dimensions to him, and he sides with people and he shows empathy towards other, trounced upon, people and everything. So it was neat to see him.
Apparently in the books, he has more of an arc too. And he and Geralt do end up teaming up in the books. But again, like, one of the best things is you can change what's in the books for stuff like this. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with him, especially now that he's been captured at the end by dun 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 Ciri's dad. Who used to be a hedgehog. Yeah.
So we didn't talk about Yennefer.
She's next on the cast list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just going down. We have Anya Chalotra. I hope I'm saying that right. As Yennefer of Vengerberg. Arguably one of my favorite characters on the show.
Yeah, I think she's an amazing actress because she was so believable when she was sort of that twisted kind of individual at the beginning of season 1. Like, she was repulsive to like look at because she was so like awkward, and the fact that she could do that to herself and fairly, I assume there was probably a little bit of makeup going on there, but a lot of it I think was her performance, that it was so believable. She was amazing, and I think she I think more than anyone shows growth and shows, like, because she's so duplicitous at times, but yet is so, you can still be on her side. So I think she's the end of season 2.
The end of season 2 was rough when she's trying to lure Ciri back to Sintra so she can get her power back. And we're watching it, and we know what's happening, and we're just like, oh no, please don't. But then she starts bonding with Ciri, and they create this almost in the books, from what I was told, or from what I've read, the dynamic is almost like a mother, father, and daughter relationship with the three of them, and they always kind of have that dynamic. And I still say that Geralt and Yennefer have such great chemistry. Like, when he finds out she's alive, you could see it. Like, all the cracks in that armor start showing, and you could see he's visibly like, Yennefer's still alive. What? But then when he sees her at the sanctuary that they go to, like, you can feel just like what he's feeling. And that's a testament also to Henry Cavill. And, the two, apparently a lot of interviews have asked if they're seeing each other, and they're like, no, we're not seeing each other.
Really?
Yeah. We're really good friends. And that translates well with, with acting and stuff. That's a very common acting question though, but
yes,
whatever.
Because it happens to a lot of co-stars.
It's tough.
She is born in 96 and he was born. Oh God, there's a 13-year age difference between the two.
She's that young. Oh wow, good for her.
Yeah, she was born in 96. So she's only 25.
Wow. I mean, she's not too young for me. I hope my wife's not listening. But I would
totally leave my wife for Yennefer.
Well, because your wife's not listening.
Allow me. She would allow me to, so.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. But Yennefer has probably the best story in the show, and then the ending of her sacrificing herself and getting her powers back from it was fantastic. I really, because like I knew it, I saw it coming. I was like, she's gonna make the ultimate sacrifice, not only to prove to herself how good she actually is, but also to Geralt that she does care and she does feel sorry. But I don't know, like I want to see what happens with her, and I want to see the three of them together next season. That's what it's really looking toward.
Yeah, I think so.
And then I also want to see this guy, Joey Batey, as Jaskier, my favorite character. I don't know what it is about Jaskier, but he could sing. Like, that guy has a great singing voice. The songs that he does
Really? You think so?
I love his singing. I really enjoy. There's something about that like medieval type, like,
Okay, yes.
dramatic. It's telling a story just in the most dramatic and operatic way, and I love it. I don't know what it is. So he does, his two biggest numbers are Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, which became a theme song for the show and is done so well in the actual episode after he gets punched in the stomach by Geralt, which is still one of my favorites. And then in this one, when he first reappears, he's singing the song Burn, Butcher, Burn. And it is just, I love it. I really do. I was tempted to make it the intro to this episode, but I was afraid of getting flagged on YouTube again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, Agatha all along. Don't say it in a musical tone. That'll do it. But, also, I got to give props to the guy who plays Jaskier. He is jacked. I didn't realize it. And then, like,
yeah,
he
I
finally,
didn't either until he took when he was in the river, and I'm like, holy cow.
I was like, he's still really pale and pasty, but oh my God, he's like really in good shape. Good for him. Yeah. Because everybody always, like, they even joke, he's like, you with your bulging biceps to Geralt. And, like, everybody always talks about how jacked Henry Cavill is, and he's a big dude.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, good for you.
I still think he's very goofy looking, though. He has a goofy kind of, not shaming him, but he has kind of a goofy looking head to him, which isn't proportionate to his body. And I think that actually works in his favor because he's funny that way.
I think he looks better with the longer hair.
Yes, he does. But I will say, I don't, when I hear him sing, he sounds like a bad actor at a Renaissance fair.
That's fair. That's fair.
Which, again, I love what he does with the character and the singing. So, yeah, he lightens up everything. But I think here's one of the and I think he highlights one of the big problems that I have with season 2 is that I think in season 2 they decided to take the show way more seriously than it should be. And when he shows up, I'm just like, oh, thank God they're going to have some lightness to it now. And it did. I thought it got better when he showed up, it got better going along because they started to be a little bit funnier and everything. Because season 1, Paul and I were having this conversation just before we got on air, and we were talking about a show called Altered Carbon, which he's binge watching right now, which good for him. I recommend everyone watch Altered Carbon. It had 2 seasons, and I told him, stop after season 1. Just
don't watch anymore.
Because season 1 is delightfully trashy. It is absolute garbage in the best possible way. It is gory. It is just flagrant with its nudity. It is just absolute trash. And then season 2 goes the PG-13 route where they tried to take it way too seriously and they got a legitimate act. Not that Joel Kinnaman isn't legitimate. He's great. But you don't think Prestige when you think Joel Kinnaman.
Yeah.
With Anthony Mackie, you think a little bit of Prestige. They brought him in and they ruined the show. It's terrible. And I don't think they did that as badly with season 2 here, but and in our household, we were like, wow, this just isn't as much fun as season 1 was. It was kind of dull.
That's sad to hear. But like for this show, when they brought back in Jaskier and him and Yennefer, of all characters who hated each other in season 1, they had, when she hugs him and he's like, what's happening? I don't like it. Even Mel, she really enjoyed Jaskier, or she enjoyed him more this season, seeing him, helping out the elves trying to escape. And also, one of the biggest character moments for me is we find out he's making a career about how much he hates Geralt at this point. Yeah. But as soon as Geralt opens that door, he's like, I'm not going to use the expletive, but he's like, forget it. And he hugs him. And like, that's it. The drama, like, they make little jokes about it, but for the most part, like, that's a sign of the maturity of those characters. So that's where they are at this point. I do also enjoy when he's got the rats or the mice in the cage and he's like singing with them. And then I have that song too. I can't even say the title because it is just graphic, but then he tells, like, your harmonies were really good, but Mickey, you were a little flat at the end. Like, it was just very fun. And then he says goodbye to them as he's leaving, because that's a very Jaskier thing to do. But that's like the main cast. There are other characters. You have Tissia, who's the mentor to Yennefer, who I liked better in season 2, but I also trust less after season 2 because she's not a good guy, ? We have Fringilla, who eventually, she was a mage that trained alongside Yennefer, but then she takes over as like the elf ambassador in Sintra when the Nilfgaardians take over. So she's like a tertiary antagonist. I will say though, the baby stuff at the end of season 2 was rough.
Oh, when she went and just slaughtered all of the firstborns.
First, they kill the elf baby, and I was like, wow, that's a very Red Wedding, Game of Thrones type style, because I know enough of Game of Thrones to reference it, especially the big stuff.
Very good.
And that's the other problem, and the same problem I had with The Walking Dead. Everything was spoiled before watching it for me, because I didn't watch it as it happens. So I knew about the Red Wedding, I knew a lot of different things. So for me, I was like, also gratuitous violence for the sake of gratuitous violence sometimes makes me uncomfortable. But and the Red Wedding is graphic.
Oh, it is. That was a rough one.
So graphic. And this, when he's holding the elf baby, I was like, no. Like Mel and I had to sit there going, it's just a puppet. It's not real. It's like, this is not just a show. Like we had to reassure ourselves. Same things when animals get hurt in these things. When he loses Roach, we were like, it's not real.
That was the worst part of the season for me.
Yeah, that was a rough one. But then when yeah, go ahead.
On a side note, for you Game of Thrones fans out there, in our household, whenever somebody is hiding with and jumps out and attacks the other person in our house, like sometimes Timmy will do that. He'll take like one of his little fake knives or like a sword, and he'll hide and he'll jump out and attack one of us. We'll all shout, "The Lannisters send their regards."
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. At least you're not screaming out, "Hold the door." Yeah.
That is the saddest thing ever. I'm sorry. I know I'm going Game of Thrones geeky on you
That's
here, but
fine.
That is. We actually in our house we have a doorstop that says Hodor on it.
Oh, that's really funny.
But yeah, it is sad now.
And then we have some other characters. We have Triss, played by Anna Schaefer, who I like Triss more in the second season because it shows she's got quite a history with the Witchers. And
which one is she?
She's the mage that helps them create the potion from Ciri's blood.
Okay, got it.
So
this is how you need to like frame everybody for me, because I don't remember names.
Yeah, and then
especially when they're this unique.
We just some other characters that we won't go. We had Queen Calanthe, obviously Cirilla's grandmother, who was a big part of season 1, and then I think she was only in the imaginary episode of season 2 when Ciri's possessed.
Oh yeah.
Mousak, I really liked Mousak. He was so just such a nice guy. You just want to hang out with him. For season 2, the guest star list is much smaller. Like it's mostly the Witchers, the new Witchers that are created or that are introduced. And we have what's his name, Vesemir, who's kind of the head of the
father figure. Yeah.
Also, we got the new bad guy who's we have the firebender. What's his name? Oh, this is gonna drive me crazy. Yeah.
All right. Here's my question.
Hit me.
How many new characters do you think we were introduced to in this season?
In this season, characters that were introduced, I'll give you an exact.
Just off the top of your head.
I'd say like 10 to 15
main characters, right?
I would say. I'm saying guest characters.
Oh no, I'm just saying overall. How many new people do you think we were introduced to in this season?
Not many in terms of main cast.
Think about all the new Witchers,
right?
Think about all the elfin people. Think about some of the what are the other places these people have? All of the places where Yennefer and what's her name were captured. Like, and you said it at the beginning with the Wild Hunt show and Wild Hunt game. This was my complaint with season 2. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And like even this morning when we decided when Paul texted me this morning, he's like, let's do The Witcher. We were planning on doing it for a while. So I had to go back and reread all the recaps just to refresh my memory. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. There is so much going on in season 2 in terms of lore, in terms of like background and who's on whose side and the Nilfgaardians or whatever, and who's they're fighting and monoliths. And like, there's a lot. And I don't think I know I didn't take it all in on a first watch. So I think I'm going to have, but here's the problem too, is that there were so many scenes, like you said this too, there was so much not action happening in season 2. And in fact, I felt like so many episodes were about Ciri training or them doing research on monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a laboratory where they were pulling something apart and putting it in a test tube. So I'm trying to figure out where, and maybe that's my review of season 2. It was very imbalanced.
And you think of season 1, I can name the three biggest action set pieces off the top of my head, and they happen in the very first episode.
Yep.
They happen at the banquet where Geralt jumps in his stupid outfit that he was complaining about, and then in the last episode where Yennefer smokes the entire army.
Oh yeah, with her chaos magic.
When I think The Witcher, those are the 3 scenes. In this one, really, there's nothing that jumps to mind.
I remember the scene of Ciri training and going through that labyrinth thing time again. The gauntlet, yeah. That's about it.
I know it's sad, which makes me a little bummed. Don't get us wrong. Yeah. We enjoyed season 2, but the problem is season 1, and this is a common issue with season 1 versus season 2, or first movie versus second movie. Season 1 was so good and so unexpectedly good and did not have any right to be as good as it was. Then season 2 rolls around and it just wasn't as good. And that makes it seem worse.
Do you think they tried to go and this is sort of the archetypal cliche, the Empire Strikes Back route?
I don't know, because the problem is they literally said we have 7 seasons planned. But the problem with Netflix is Netflix doesn't do that many seasons of shows. Netflix is famous because it's not about keeping people watching their shows. It's about getting new people to watch their shows.
Right.
So that's why they're constantly cranking out new material or different material. I just finished Cobra Kai season 4. They announced season 5, but I'm afraid that they're going to be like, and last season, sorry. Yeah. Because it's all about the numbers that they're pulling in on and keeping and retaining. So that's why they still do the binging, because next month they'll have something new for you to binge and they want to keep you coming back every month. I don't know. For me, I think that this show really suffered from COVID and the lockdown. And I think Henry Cavill tested positive at one point. They had to shut down production.
Wow.
So it was a pain in the butt. And that's also why you can tell that it was filmed with a lot of characters never interacting with each other, or only interacting with each other once or twice. And I find that's this show is strongest when the characters are all together.
Yeah, I agree. And here's the weird thing too, is that on critic wise, this season got significantly higher in terms of the critics. I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes. Season 1 was 68% with the critics, but the fans loved it.
Yeah.
Season 2, 94% with the critics.
And that's why we've talked ad nauseum about how movie reviews are not the accurate, especially Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of people put stock in Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes is just the correlation or the collab results, basically. It's how many people said this movie was good and put together. It's not, there's no nuance, right?
And it's funny too, because looking at the audience scores, season 1 is 91% audience score, season 2, 62%. So it's nice to know that we're not alone on this, that the fans clearly were like, this is kind of not what we want.
And don't get us wrong. We enjoyed it.
Again.
It was a great showing, and we want to come back to this world. But again, there are things that it just didn't catch us the same way, which is unfortunate. Because I remember we talked about season 1 for months, Mel and I, in the house. And then season 2 rolls around and we stopped talking about it. I was like, do you want to be on the show? She's like, no. She's upstairs putting away all the Christmas stuff that was January 1st. Got to go away. But I am excited to see where this show goes eventually.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully. We're still fans in our household, and we will absolutely be there when season 3 starts.
What would you give Star City rating for both season 1 and season 2?
So you're saying individual or overall? All right, season 1.
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, I will say 4 out of 5. I also know, I fully recognize, and this is something that I was saying with Hawkeye too, I fully recognize it is not highbrow.
Yeah.
But it's still enjoyable. So I would say 4 stars for season 1. Season 2, I would say 3 stars, because I think they tried to take themselves too seriously and they tried to be too legitimate. How about you?
I'm torn, right? Season 1 is so, I think from just me being a nerd, especially a Henry Cavill nerd, it's easy for me to be like 4.5 out of 5. It was almost perfect. I think I'm going to go with the 4 though. I think It is a great intro to this character, to this world. We understood the world almost immediately. We understood these are the Witchers. People don't like the Witchers, but they know that the Witchers are a necessary thing. These are, this is Jaskier the Bard. He runs around telling stories of grand adventures. Here are the royals. Here are the bad guys. Here are the this. I do think that shows like this tend to get very complicated very quickly. My problem is, shows like this, and this is against all these types of shows. Your Game of Thrones. I watched Camelot too. That was another one. Only one season, but it was a good time on Stars. It was just
I don't think I know that one. Is that sort of like
King
one
Arthur
of those trashy kind of?
Oh yeah, so trashy. A lot. What's her face? Who's? Oh god, this is gonna drive me crazy. Help me out. She was in the Casino Royale, and she was in Sin City: A Dame to Kill For.
Oh yeah. Eva. I want to say Eva Perón.
No, not Eva Perón. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy. But
yeah,
like those types of shows, I always really.
Eva Mendes, is that her name?
No, that's not it.
Oh no.
God, hold on. Stand by, everyone. This is going to drive us crazy. 300, A Rise of an Empire, right? The Rise of the Empire? Oh, my God. This is so unprofessional.
Eva Green.
Thank you, Eva Green. Oh, my God. We were right there.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that was entertaining for our listeners.
Oh, God. I hope you guys weren't driving during that crash of car.
Oh, Miss Peregrine herself.
Oh, yeah. There it is. But the problem with those shows is they get so complicated, and then it turns into these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. There's no nuance, right? It's like, these are the bad guys. Like the Nilfgaardians are the bad guys. You can't root for them because they're the bad guys. There's no layers of anything. It's good guys, bad guys. So for me, like these shows always tend to fall into those tropes. And I will say though, I'm going to give season 1 a 4, and I'm going to give season 2 a 3 to a 3.5, which is still above average. It's still a good show. It's still something you should watch. But yeah, that's where I'm kind of at with that. But,
and I don't think either of us are saying that the quality or the show itself is headed downhill. I think probably a lot of what got laid out in season 2 are almost sort of necessary evils of like, all right, we got to get through all this stuff so that way we're laying the groundwork for the future. But that doesn't necessarily make it fun.
Yeah.
So,
but we would love to hear you guys' thoughts on The Witcher and kind of what the series is going and, where everything is. But you can find us on Facebook, the Multiverse Fancast. There you'll find links to all of our material, all of our different stuff. You can find our website, themisfitfaction.com. Again, if you guys are looking for some more content, different podcasts, that's the place to do it. You can find us on, I don't know, what else? YouTube. Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. You can find us on Netflix. Wow, I wish that'd be really cool.
I would wish, yes.
I was going to say YouTube. I meant to say YouTube. Excuse me. You can find us on YouTube, the Misfit Faction Media Network. You can find us on Twitter at Misfit Faction. You can find us on Instagram, the Misfit Faction. We did have a fan feedback Friday, but it's unfortunately not loading. That's the other reason I was kind of.
I was wondering why you were stalling.
Unfortunately, I did. I forgot it was New Year's Eve when I posted it, so it was a little less than lackluster. It was a little lackluster.
Yeah,
so we're gonna.
I got it. If you want me to go through it.
No, it's fine. We're gonna wrap up anyway because I think I have another show to record after this. Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
But that's gonna wrap us up for today. As always, I'm Paul,
and I'm Rob,
and we will be back in a flash.
Smorgas. Fuck.